So the first thing on the agenda is election of commissioner chairperson and vice chairperson.
Excuse me, with all due respect, if you could go around the Zoom room and take the roll, please, so that we can at least hear people say their names or something, since it's the first time we've ever been together, even though our names are at the bottom. I think it would just be a nice way to get us started. And for people who don't have their pronouns listed below their names on their Zoom rooms, if they could please say their pronouns so that we make sure we're addressing people properly. I, for one, would appreciate it. I'm Emily Simon, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Thank you, Emily. I also note that there's a chat message noting that Keith Jenkins is not able to get into the Zoom link. So perhaps
he just arrived.
Oh, great. Okay, I thank you. I'm Julie Gillis, she, her, hers.
I'm Nataki Garrett.
Oh, sorry.
I'm Nataki Garrett, she, her, hers, Artistic Director, Oregon Shakespeare Festival, popcorning it to Sherry.
Thanks, Nataki. I'm Sherry Elson, she, her, hers, and I'll popcorn it to Tamara. I am not sure how to pronounce it, and I apologize.
It's okay, it's Tamara, but I go by Tammy. Yeah, you guys can call me Tammy, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Melissa, did you go? Did Melissa introduce herself?
Oh no, City Recorder.
Okay, I'm gonna popcorn it to you.
Sorry. City Recorder, Melissa Hudala. Thank you. And I'll go to Keith.
Keith Jenkins, he, him, his. I'm not exactly sure who hasn't gone. Amit, have you gone?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Amit, and I'm he, and it's nice to be here. Thank you. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'll go next. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Precious Yamaguchi, Associate Professor at Southern Oregon University, and I'll pass it on to Gina.
There we go. Thank you, Precious. My name is Gina Duquesne, she, her, hers, and I am your City Council liaison, and I will send it over to Irene.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Irene Kai, co-founder of the Ashland Culture of Peace Commission, and she, her, hers, and I'll popcorn it to Anya.
Irene. Hello, everybody. My name is Anya, or Anya Naya Muse. I'm the new director of IDEA for OSF, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. Nice to meet everyone and happy to be here.
Do you know, Melissa, I have a question. I did see that on the agenda about electing the chair and the vice chair. But because this is the first time this body has really been together, maybe if we could put that on the end of the agenda, or I don't know how everyone feels about it, but, or if you guys just want to jump off right now, I don't know. Thoughts?
It's up to the commission. I honestly was just thrown in this to do our presentation, so I don't want to say yes or no to what you would like to do. I still don't see Katrina on here.
I think it's not a bad idea maybe to get to know each other just a touch before we get a sense of who might be a good leader, who might want to be a leader.
Anya, I see your hand is up.
I was going to just say, coming from county employment that works very much like local city government, I think there are some questions that a lot of us had that we should probably discuss before going through a process of electing or deciding who should or wants to step up. Because I know that there are rules that you all are governed by as you're working this commission, and many of us may not have that experience. I understand all of the the rules because I work directly for the Board of Supervisors, that everything is recorded, everything has to go into the public record. But I think also people need to have an understanding of how frequently we are allowed to meet, where we allowed or not allowed to have discussions about what is discussed in this space. What are the rules and regulations that the commission and the city council are so that there's very clear understanding of what we will or won't be willing to sign up for. And I know that the other person isn't here, so that's kind of putting you on the spot, Melissa, but maybe it's just a general like overview for us of like, what are the city council rules? What are the, is it Robert's rules? Like, how do you all govern yourselves so that we have that understanding?
And
Okay.
Melissa, I think you could answer some of that, and I did see the handbook in on the agenda. So why don't we talk about that and then come back to this other part?
Okay, or we could go to when you next regular meetings and when you want to meet. Just a little side way to wait for Katrina, hopefully, because a lot of this presentation is from the legal department, so I don't want to miss anything. If we could do that first, maybe, and just talk about.
That's fine. Are you
scheduling.
saying, Melissa, that a lot of the
Frequency.
presentation may answer a lot of these questions?
Yes. and so
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't wanna. I mean, I can answer any questions about minutes or Robert
City
rules.
reporter's presentation.
But do you guys have any idea about meeting times? Is it gonna be 3 to 5 evenings?
There's been no discussion, I don't think, right?
I don't believe after the small email debacle, we haven't communicated at all. And sorry I'm not trying to make light of it, but it was a bit of a moment for all of us. I think I was caught off guard a little bit. So I don't have any idea of how often we're supposed to meet or any of that.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
it's
that goes
difficult.
back to the, sorry, Tammy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's difficult to make these type of final decisions without everybody being here and without us really knowing what we can and can't do. Because I know in the email, the guy was like, we're not supposed to be emailing each other like on the thread. So it's kind of, I guess it's a little confusing, especially since the other lady isn't here for us to actually go through everything. So
Yeah,
Right. Because my default is put out a doodle and see what everyone says. But I'm gathering from what happened with our emails before, that's probably not okay.
Or
Yeah.
seems like it.
That's what I was gonna suggest, a doodle, obviously, but seeing as I'm not the staff liaison, so I don't want to jump on anyone's.
It may, if I'm understanding some of those rules correctly, it may be that the staff liaison could send a doodle poll to all of us and we could fill it in, but we can't communicate about reasons why or why not, or
Yes, correct.
discuss.
I want to put on my lawyer hat if I might for just a minute. Okay, understanding that. Without getting into the issue as to if the legal advice that we were given was correct or not regarding the level of communication that we can have, I don't think, respectfully, Melissa, I don't want to put you in a bad position where you feel like you're giving legal advice.
No.
And I don't want to put myself in a bad position where I feel like I'm giving legal advice either. And I really think that for almost any decision that we make, that we need to get the presentation from the lawyer first, because Julie, when you said it was, I think you used the word debacle or is that what word you used? Okay, I'm sorry if I didn't quite get it.
No, you are quoting me accurately.
I don't think it was a debacle.
Okay.
And on behalf of my position on this, I just want to say that I think we communicated with each other and now here we are in the public record and we can make all of those emails part of the public record and adopt them. And that solves any problem whatsoever. So that's number one. And then number two, we communicated with each other about an issue that's very important to us. And I'm really glad that you raised it, Julie, and I'm glad that we all responded. And I don't think that we should see that as a debacle. I think that we should see this as this committee working proactively and addressing the fact that a police officer, regardless of how he is viewed in this town, nonetheless stifles voices, just their presence. And I'm proud of us for doing that. And I'm very happy that you raised it, Julie. And I just wanted to lay that out there and say, I hope that Karina Brown can get on the phone so that we can make decisions where we won't be putting Gina in particular into a bad position, or Melissa.
I made it. This is Katrina.
Thank you.
Katrina,
I totally apologize. No one's used the Siskiyou room in over 1 year. And so I guess there are some issues with the connectivity there. So I had to switch rooms. So I apologize.
And Emily, thank you for that reframe. I appreciate it. It looks like Anya Naya has her hand up.
I just, one of the things that I wanted to ask, and I think since Katrina is here, like, I know that we had an agenda and we're off agenda, but I think that's okay for the first meeting, because I think we're all just trying to figure it out. And I, much like Emily, while I am not an attorney, I have spent many years in government. And so I had a concern that I don't think ever got really directly addressed in the email about these rules around our communication. Because I have established community commissions before, and yes, while they do work with the council and with the board of supervisors, telling people that they cannot have a certain level of communication is really problematic. And so I need to just see not only what are the rules, but how we are all going to govern ourselves. And what are the actual rules versus what the city council would prefer this commission do? Because that's going to tell me the longevity of my space and place in this work.
So I think your concern is over the sort of the serial meeting, if you will, or y'all, the commission making a decision about the staff liaison. And you did that
not
out.
just the staff liaison. That yes,
Okay.
it's at, and there was a message that was conveyed to all of us via email that essentially said we were not to be having conversation amongst ourselves about the way forward, that we had to wait because and I can send the exact language again, but essentially I think what I'm asking for is, how is this group governed? Are there specific rules that we need to be following? And what is I understand that most of this all of this goes into public record, but it felt like we were being told, do not discuss what's happening on this commission amongst yourselves. You've got to wait for the person. And at the time we weren't really sure who the person was to be present. So that was
just to add to that. Anya, just to add to that, we were also asking, we were asking about how we might shift the person who was being appointed. We had not come to a decision, but we had agreed that the decision that was made for us may not be right for us.
Oh, okay.
And then we were told that we were not allowed to communicate.
Right.
Well, so the problem is, so this is a commission of the city of Ashland, and as such, this commission, just like the city council and every other commission for the city, is subject to Oregon public meetings laws, as well as public records laws. And so Melissa and I actually have a slideshow. Now it's a high level, overview of public records, public meetings, and ethics. But I think your concern is, being able to discuss, but because the law is what it is, and this is all set forth in the Oregon Revised Statutes. It's chapter 192. And I could get you the full text if you'd like. We have a few definitions in our
That would be great to get the full text. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I can do that. Just for everyone's information right now, because you can look it up online very easily too. It's ORS, or Oregon Revised Statutes. It's 192.610 through 192.690, and that is the Oregon Public Meetings Law. And
Do you know,
so the
Katrina, can I?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump in here for a little bit because I think it's the public, it's the having a quorum, and 4 or more people is a quorum. So that's where the serial emails came in. I do understand that there's a handbook that commissioners can refer to also that is on the agenda. So being able to have you here to answer the questions about the ethics, the quorum, what does that mean? What does that look like is so important, and just kind of getting down to the meat and potatoes of it rather than, you know, discussing what happened before. And then we can find out exactly who our city liaison will be, and then start to get more on point with this agenda. So I just wanted to put that out there about the serial emails, and 4 people makes a quorum.
Well, actually, for this commission, I believe there are 11 members.
Yes.
And so it would be 6 people who make a quorum.
Okay.
That's just over half. However, what I saw in one of the emails from someone on the commission, there was a letter, and it looked like the letter had been signed by almost every member of the commission. And so if you're correct, Gina, that you can talk with 2 or 3 other commission members. However, if those commission members then talk to 2 or 3 more,
yes,
now you've got 6 people or a quorum discussing commission business outside of a public meeting. And that's
something that I wanted to bring up on behalf of the commission is that nobody was told this prior to.
Well, and that's because we haven't had a meeting yet.
Something that Emily mentioned is that in moving forward now, going through your slide that you have up here, that questions can be answered, something that Anya questioned also, if you would be able to answer questions. So I was just, for the sake of time, moving forward with this and making sure that questions are answered at the end of this meeting.
Sure. Oh, and certainly, and as the person who delivered that email, we were welcomed in a social way by the mayor and introduced ourselves to each other in an email thread, and I think having some of the this little high overview from the very beginning would have been useful for me. We might have had a different conversation at a different time, or we still might have tried to have a conversation at the current time, but there would have been really no way for us to have known that was anyway. I felt like we had very reasonable human reactions to having questions.
Sure. So so I want to back up and again apologize for being unable to get in right at 3. And so I just want to catch up if you have talked about electing your chairperson and vice chairperson yet.
No, Katrina, because we don't know each other. We don't really know what the rules and the requirements and the obligations are. So we really felt like the very first thing that needed to happen was this presentation, so we all knew what was okay and what wasn't.
Okay.
I think we probably all felt that we were doing that, those emails completely the right way. Everybody included, everybody consenting, and it was a bit of a shock to find out that we weren't even supposed to email each other at all. So
no, I wouldn't say at all, but what you can't do is like deliberate or discuss an issue before the commission, something that you might vote on and send on to council. you know, or
Mhm.
like a motion. And that's kind of how I consider this request to get a new staff liaison, was, you know, that was kind of a matter for the commission, and that you all discussed it among, you know, a quorum or more, and sort of made a decision to send that to the city manager pro tem.
No, I think that you're misconstruing that, Katrina, respectfully, okay?
Sure.
And I want to go back to something that Nataki Garrett was saying, and that is, we were asking how to do that. It was a process question.
Mhm.
And as a process question, and I don't think we need to debate matters of law here, but on behalf of the commission that I am on, I think I can say that there is a distinction between a process question and a motion or a decision that has been made with the commission. And again, respectfully, if this commission is to function as a group and people want to remain in it as, I hope I'm saying your name right. Is it Amina? I really want to say it right. I'm sorry if I say it wrong.
Anya, just take the
Anya.
T off of Tanya and you got it.
Okay, thank you, Anya. Is I think it's important to us to be able to function as a meaningful group of people on our own, so that we can raise the issues of race that we think the city needs to address within the matters of the law. And that was a process question for how do we do this? So I don't think it was a public meeting, and I think that so we can get beyond it and not have to be stuck in this place, we could simply adopt those emails as communication and attach them to the minutes of this meeting. And in my opinion, we have solved the problem. So I just would like for us to be able as a commission to move forward, knowing the extent to which we can communicate.
Right. And if you will look, you know, at the ORS, so meeting, I can read you verbatim what the definition is. But it means the convening of a governing body of a public body for which a quorum is required, okay, to make a decision or to deliberate toward a decision on any matter. So if you make a decision or you deliberate toward a decision on anything, then that would be a meeting subject to public meetings law.
Including a decision to ask a question about how to do something.
Well, maybe not, but that's not the letter that I saw. The letter I saw was, we've all voted, and I don't have it in front of me, you know, honestly, that we do not want this person as our staff liaison, and can we get another person? That's what I recall seeing. Now, maybe that's not correct, but it seems to me that the group discussed it or deliberated toward a decision that affects the commission.
So respectfully, I need to say this. We all came together not knowing, not having a not having an email, not having anything that said, on this date, we will all meet. And as a precursor to these meetings, here are the ways in which we need to assemble ourselves. You cannot discuss commission rules and regulations until you meet with the liaison, the city manager, whoever is going to be a part of the commission, right? So nobody on this call had an idea that what we were doing was going to somehow dive us into the space where we are now. Even when you go through this overview of Oregon rules and laws, one of the things that I will need in order to participate in honesty, fullness, and truth is to hear from the council where we are willing to work with one another. Because right now we're debating an email that was sent with a level of
and I think we should move on from that.
Right.
Because we can talk about that now. We can talk about the
hold on a second, Katrina. If Anya might want to finish what she's saying.
So what I'm asking for though is, since it's a topic at this point, right? And so now that it is a topic, I think that the thing before we can get to voting on who's going to be a liaison, who's going to be the first or second from this group. It's what are the rules? You said that we have 11 members, that 6 people make up a quorum. So we now know that, and that means that any decision moving forward, we cannot get together and have these discussions without it being a matter of public record. And what Emily just suggested, it sounds like, is take what we did in that email, and if you want to make that public record, I don't think any of us has a problem with making it public record and saying, that we had this discussion prior to understanding the rules and regulations of the commission. I will cop to that and own that, and that we asked for a change, because you are asking in a city where we are having issues of racial equity. You are asking Black and brown people to bring themselves, their intellect, their bodies, their time to a meeting that is already going to be intense. And the proof of that is in where we are right now. So knowing that, we asked as a group, out of order, admittedly out of order, that the police chief be removed and be replaced with someone else, not that he be removed from the commission, but as the liaison. So I think that's where we are in this space. And if that can't be discussed here before we move into the particulars, I think that we're gonna have to make some decisions about whether or not we're gonna move forward. At least I will need to make a decision.
I 100% agree.
Thank you. Thank you, Anya. That was very well said.
Yes.
I agree
I
too.
want to support this work. Like, I absolutely want to do it. I think we need some grace around the way we started. We started wrong because we did not have the full information.
Right. And I think everyone's aware of that. And so I think now that everyone's together in this meeting, it's the time to discuss, that issue and where the commission wants to go with that, and make that formal request to the city manager.
I believe, I'm gonna maybe speak out of turn here a little bit, other commissioners, but I'm trying to move us forward. So please bear with me if I'm speaking out of turn. I do not mean to be stifling any voices, okay? I believe that all of us in this room right now are requesting from whoever it is that can grant the request that the staff liaison be somebody different than either the chief of police or a person who is associated intricately with law enforcement for the city of Ashland.
Yes.
And to the extent that that needs to be a motion, and I understand a little bit of Robert Rules of Order, but to move us forward in terms of time, I'm glad to have discussion on this. I don't mean to be stifling voices, but if a motion needs to be made at this point, I make that motion.
I think that would be a good idea, to just make the motion just as you stated it, and have someone, if there's a second it.
I second.
Okay, do we need to have discussion on it?
I think it's all pretty clear. I think we all agree that as long as it's not the chief as the liaison, we can move forward. And I think the problem with it is what everyone's trying to say, or what, for me personally, is I will not be on the commission if he's going to be the staff liaison. So before we can even go forward with the next meeting and all that other stuff, I think that's just kind of what it is. We don't want him as the staff liaison. And if we can just get that communicated to whoever we need to do, we can just move forward. And I guess then my next question is, when will we know if he's going to be removed or not? I guess that's the next question. Is it going to be another meeting? Is it going to be at the end of this meeting, or what? How does that work?
Well, I think first we need to take a vote on it.
Yes.
Tammy.
Are we voting?
And
Okay.
So I'm gonna just do show of hand for my vote, raise my hand. That's my yes.
Can we
Any
get
nays?
can we get the slides down for a moment, perhaps so that we
Yeah.
can see everybody?
Sure, I think,
Because right now I can only see
Sure.
who's speaking.
Thank you.
I think Melissa's gonna have to do that.
You can also drag.
Yes.
next to-
Is that
Here.
good?
Okay, perfect. That's much better. Thank you.
Yes.
And couldn't tell if my hand was in the picture or
Right.
not.
Thank you, 'cause I couldn't
I
tell
was raising my hand. It was not in the picture.
So I don't see any nays unless I'm incorrect.
Okay, I can read the names of the hands. I see Keith Jenkins' hand up. Anya Naya Muse, Julie Giles, Precious Yamaguchi, Nataki Garrett's hand is up, Emily Simon, Irene Kai, Amit Chaudhry, sorry, I'm messing up your name, Amit,
No
Sherry
worries. I'm Chaudhry.
Wilson, and Tamara Williams. Those are the hands that are up.
But yeah, it looks like it's 10-0. So it looks like is one person missing today? Because I'm. thought
Oh
there
no,
were-
Gina's hand is not up.
Right, she's the
I am not
council
a-
liaison.
So that's the only person that I'm not
I'm
seeing.
not a
today.
voting
So
person.
she can't vote, okay.
I can't vote.
Yeah.
Something that I was, Anya, answering your question about, or I think it was Tammy's question, who's going to be city staff liaison? It's my understanding, and Katrina, you tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, but right now you are the temporary staff liaison until Ty O'Mara is replaced. Is that correct?
Well, he's sort of been, yes, I am interim for this meeting because I think it was clear the commission did not want the chief at this meeting. And so it will be up to the city manager to appoint a
Yes.
new staff liaison. So it won't happen like during this meeting, but hopefully it can be done very shortly and certainly, well in advance of your next meeting.
And it
So
sounds
if
then
I-
as though
if I
it's been
am
accepted
correct,
that it will
I-
not be Ty.
Yes, I think that's not a problem. It's just going through the motions and getting the city manager then to appoint someone else.
Exactly. The city manager is the person who appoints the liaison. And so you at this time are our interim, and I don't believe that Ty O'Mara is going to be the city staff liaison. That's what I got from the email.
Okay,
And that's my understanding also.
okay.
And I think, I was just gonna say, I think what would also be really important, at least from my own personal voice, is I don't have a problem working with Ty. I don't have a problem with him being a part of the commission. I just don't think the liaison position was the best space, especially when we're talking about all of these issues and their internal issues that people are voicing. So I wanna make it clear that him coming in to work with, it at some point, obviously is gonna need to happen. We can't do this work without that representation, as painful as that's gonna be for some of us. So I needed to voice that, and that's my own, I'm not speaking for anyone else. I'm sorry, Amit, you had your hand up, or was it up from our vote?
It was up from your vote, and I
Click
just
lower hand, it'll go down.
Wait. Hi,
Yeah,
can you guys?
just click lower hand and it'll go down.
Got it. Yeah, so I had also a quick request to all of the panelists that I have connected with the meeting to my phone, and something came up, and I have to pick up my kid from a place. So I will be connected as an attendee for the next 15 minutes, but I'll joining you guys shortly with a video and everything. So please allow me to do that, and then I'll see you over there.
Would like to talk about a little bit after Anya. I agree with you. Having the police to come to the table is absolutely essential for us to go forward to address the issues on the ground. I agree with you. He might not be the right person in the space of liaison, but I absolutely request his presence as we go forward to come to the table and work with us.
And I don't think the chief had a problem with that. He had just actually volunteered because I think as many of you know, the city is pretty short staffed right now. And so there are not a lot of people to go around, and there are like, I think 12 plus commissions. So that was another issue.
If we're done on this issue now,
Mhm.
can we move on to something else?
Like the training.
Your slideshow and the handbook.
Yes, please.
Sure. We can take that out of order. But it would be important, and someone could volunteer to be chairperson and vice chairperson. And it's just important to have one of those people in place. Volunteer and then vote on it.
No, Katrina, respectfully, I'm a white-skinned person. And because of that, on a commission of race, it's important to me that the leadership people on this are people of color, or Black or brown people. And they may feel by me saying that I am putting more on them than they are willing to accept. Could we not put this up right now, please, so that I can look at everybody while I'm saying this very important and personal thing?
Yeah.
Can we go back to so that I can look at people's faces? Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So because of that, and needing to learn more about checking my own racism and racial issues at the door, I believe that this is a conversation that we will need to have in terms of who the chairperson is and who the co-chair is, or who the second in command is. And I don't think we are honestly ready to have that conversation. And I hope that people in the Zoom room can hear where I am coming from on this and approach me with a little bit of grace as I have said this.
Looks like Anya Naya's hand is up.
I'm gonna say this. So I think in response to Emily, it's a yes, and yes, you're right. And I think it is a lot in this moment for the folks of color to have to make a decision today. And Katrina, I know you are process. I can tell you're process oriented and driven, and y'all are accustomed to outcomes, but I wanna just give you some background. So I just moved here from Marin County, and I ran Marin County's equity office as their first Black equity officer. And for the 2 years that I was there, and I'm still there, even though I'm now employed by OSF, I'm still a consultant for them. One of the things I have had to get our local government to understand is something called action bias. We are all so predisposed to just getting it done that we want outcomes in the way that we're accustomed to having outcomes. And what I'm gonna ask as a favor from this group is that I know we want to have a process to take back to city leadership to say, this is who's in charge, this is who's doing what, but I don't think we're there yet. None of us fully knows the other. None of us fully knows or understands why each of us are a part of this group, why we even agreed to do it. So I think what would be the healthiest way forward, because this is going to be difficult and we all know it, is you all set the stage for us in the rules and regulations so that we can digest what that means. And then the next meeting, let's talk to and about each other's work and why we've agreed to be here, and have a promise of at the end of that meeting, determining who is willing to step up and be a first and a second. That addresses the issue of action bias. It addresses the issue of the racial tension that is clearly already hovering in the room. And then it puts us in a position to be able to get you what you need to take back to the city in a timely fashion.
Thank you both so much for that.
I don't want to be the chair, so so don't nominate me.
Well, the purpose of the chair is sort of just to move the meeting along and make sure, that the agenda items are followed and motions are taken, and sort of like what the mayor's role is at the council meeting.
I'm clear. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think we all understand what a chair and a co-chair is, but I'm hearing a very different message from Anya, Naya, and Emily, and I'm seeing nods all around the room, that we're going to want to operate a little bit differently, and in fact need to operate a little bit differently, and that the trust needs to be built in order to truly dig into what is going to be the outside structure of a commission may look typical and like every other commission, but I don't think the inside is going to. And I think I'm seeing that represented in people's faces and nods, that the values are going to need to feel different. And so the trust is important to build. And I agree.
I think building trust is really primary. Without that, we're not going anywhere. Especially this group coming together with multiracial, and this is a new thing. This is absolutely, we need to learn how to work with each other, and knowing each person's intent and passion, and how to work the vision together. It is so important.
I'm going to take what Anya said and turn it into a motion, to the extent that I need to, again, turn into a motion, because it's my very clear sense of the body. So if I say it this way and I've said it wrong, I am sure that either Anya will correct me or somebody else will, is that what we would like to do at this point is not to elect or select or come to consensus or any other method of a first or a second, and instead set that over for the next meeting, and have that be an agenda item where we share as an agenda item why we're on the committee. I guess, Anya, I should say, if we're willing to serve, sort of how we can bring that forward for a discussion. And I think it's our understanding, Katrina, that we are not supposed to be communicating about that outside of a meeting, okay? So therefore, I think we need to do that within the space of a meeting. And I would suggest that before we start losing people, even though it's a 2-hour scheduled meeting, okay, that because scheduling can sometimes be a difficult thing, that you advise us at this point, Katrina, if it's okay for you to send out a doodle poll again, so that we can get another meeting actually set, so that we can have that discussion during that meeting and have it be the first thing on the agenda. That is what, and I understand it's a multi-part motion, but again, I'm just doing my best. I'm not meaning to stifle conversation, to move us forward. And I hope it's viewed in that way.
Yes, that would be fine. I can definitely do that and send out the poll to everyone and get that second meeting set. And so, so yeah, just perhaps, you could just let me know or make a motion now with the exact words of the agenda item you would like to lead.
Emily, I'm gonna type it in the chat. So can you just clarify that I'm doing this right? Motion for a doodle poll for meetings moving forward is the first motion. The second motion is a motion to have each member clarify reasons for participation and what we strive to get out of our participation.
Yeah, I would just add the following thing, that in terms of, and adding in explicitly, Anya, that the purpose of doing this is, in addition to just building trust with each other like humans, but for the commission, the purpose is that we can't do this until, we can't get near a chair, a first or a second, until we do this. And I think that's really the sense of the body.
Prior to naming a chair or second. Okay, and then the third motion is for our next meeting.
Yeah, is to have that be the first thing on the agenda.
And I don't think you need a motion for the doodle poll or it being first on the agenda, but perhaps for the second thing where this is the agenda item.
Okay,
We
so
would
that
like
the
to
agenda
see
item is a motion to
presented.
have members clarify the reason for participation and what we strive to get out of participation. And the explicit purpose to do this is prior to naming the chair or the second, correct?
Yes.
That's your motion.
Thank you.
I
And
second.
is that clarification to happen during, hold on, during discussion? Just so that I know the methodology.
Wait, I'm sorry, Nataka, can you ask that again?
Are the way we're going to clarify the reason for participation, is that happening through discussion at the end of this motion? Or we're going to make the motion, pass it, and then have a discussion
Well,
about it?
No, you make the motion. If someone seconds it, then you go into deliberation and discuss it. And after deliberation, then the commission votes. So that
So we will
everyone
clarify our
understands.
reason after the voting.
No, before the vote.
Next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next meeting. This is just to get it on the agenda for the next meeting so that we have enough time to discuss it and really give it the credence that it deserves.
Precious, did you want to say something? No, I'm sorry, I saw you leave.
Did someone second it?
I did, I second.
Okay. So should we vote then?
If no one wants to discuss the motion itself, yes, voting would be next.
Yes. Aye.
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 Looks like everyone has voted.
Looks like it passes 10-0.
So Katrina, I have a question for the sake of time. I have
Sure.
about 10 minutes to 4. And
Yes.
because there are so many unanswered questions, maybe we can look at the slide that you were going to present. I don't know if Keith has a question.
That was his vote. He just has to lower his hand.
Oh, okay. Just checking. Okay. I think it would be good to have some questions answered so that we could feel more secure in what we're doing and the direction we're going in.
So we'll all be quiet now, Katrina, and let you do your work.
Okay, so I think, are we ready for the
We're ready for the
for the
slide.
PowerPoint?
So I can share my screen now?
And Melissa's going to help a little bit because obviously she's the city recorder and deals with public records on a daily basis.
A little.
So Melissa, can you start with slide 2? All right.
Yeah. Can everyone see my screen? I'm new at this as well. Okay, so I think we've actually gone over what we're discussing. So obviously, interim city attorney Katrina, and now she's going to go over chapter 192 of public meeting law. And then if you have questions during, just raise your hand and we can try to answer everything as best as we can.
Okay, so Melissa, next slide.
It's not moving, sorry. There you go.
Well, the slide before that talks about public meetings is governed by the Oregon Revised Statutes, and it's chapter 192. And I think we put in the chat the exact sections of that chapter. And also there's a lot of help. The Attorney General puts out a public records and meetings manual, and that manual is online for anyone to use and to get guidance from. Okay, and so this slide talks about, so who all must follow public meetings law? Well, obviously the governing body, which is our city council, and as it applies to this group, any committee or commission or subgroup, tasked with making a decision or deliberating toward a decision on any matter. So because this is a subgroup of the city council, this group is subject to public meetings law. So, so this is the policy. ORS 192.620 is actually the policy provision for public meetings law. And as you can see, Oregon wants an informed public, and they want them to be aware of the deliberations and decisions of governing bodies and the information upon which such decisions were made. Okay, and then the purpose is so that everyone knows what's going on, with its government. And you can see the intent is that decisions are arrived at openly and in public. And so this next bullet point goes, excuse me, Melissa, I'm not quite finished. Talks about the quorum and what we talked about on the letter. Okay, so a quorum, and in this group, that would be 6 or more, may not meet in private for the purpose of deciding on or deliberating toward a decision on any matter, with the exception of things that are allowed under this section. Those are executive sessions, and those can be done in private, but they have to be duly noticed, and there actually has to be a letter, usually from the legal department of a governing body, that says this is an appropriate matter for an executive session. So again, this is the definition of what a meeting is, an instance where a quorum of members are discussing or deliberating toward a decision. And it does include not just standard meetings like what we're having here today, but electronic meetings, including then electronic communications, emails, text, social media messages, instant messaging. So all of those things can become a public meeting if a quorum of members are discussing issues in that forum. And so I think it's important to realize that. That third thing, serial discussions, and that's where, say, someone is discussing with just one other member, but then that member also discusses with 2 members. Those 2 members then discuss with 2 additional members. Now you have a quorum and you've discussed this one issue that might be before the commission. And that's how you get to a serial discussion and a violation when that discussion is not done in public at a publicly noticed meeting. So does anyone have any questions about that? Because I think that was, a big issue, with that letter that was signed. And then, you all did talk about social gatherings, but those aren't public meetings. So if there's just a strictly social get to know you type of event, obviously that is not a public meeting because you're not deliberating toward a matter before the commission.
Katrina?
Uh-huh.
But if we're at a social gathering and a topic comes up, we are not supposed to talk about something that would be happening at a meeting. Is that?
That would be my advice, not to discuss something before the commission.
As a rule, oh, go ahead, Sherry. I'm sorry, I saw your hand up.
No, Julie, that's okay, Anya. Julie, that was my question. Essentially, if we're at a social meeting, we can't discuss anything that might have to do with the commission. And I was trying to clarify if that was correct. It sounds like that's correct.
Well, I mean, obviously you say you can discuss, really technical things, meeting times and places and that kind of thing. You just can't discuss things that you're going to have to make a decision about. Like if there's an issue that you're going to want to make a recommendation to council, to do something, take action on.
Say, for instance, changing our staff liaison.
Correct. So something that you want, an action done, those aren't appropriate to discuss outside of the public meeting.
For those of you who haven't done this before, I will just say that I would take to heart, like really seriously, not having these discussions, because there may be something that we all agree to that we want to vote on that gets dismantled because it's been found in text messages or emails that there's been an outside discussion that goes to the quorum, and it can undermine the actual work that you're actually trying to do. So the commission may, or the city council may agree to do something that the commission wants done, and then it gets undermined because it has been a discussion that was outside of the bounds of what rules are. So I just, from the vantage point of doing this work in other spaces, don't discuss unless it's with one other person and it literally, what time is the meeting? Did you hear? I will say to people, yeah, let's discuss that in the meeting with other folks.
And I, for one, will never be upset if you remind me of that if I forget. Because I know that I don't want to fall afoul of any of these rules. So please remind me if I do something that I'm not supposed to do, because I'd rather be reminded and learn than not be reminded and mess it all up.
Okay, Melissa, I think we can move to the next one. So these are just the procedural requirements to have a public meeting. The first is public notice. And this 36 hours that's here in the slide, it actually comes from the Ashland Municipal Code. The site is there. Chapter 2.10 is actually the uniform policies and operating procedures for advisory commissions and boards. So if you all haven't read that chapter of the AMC, it might be a good idea. And this would apply to all of the commissions and boards that the city has. But, it gives you a time certain to notice the meeting. And that can be a little different. The public meetings law doesn't actually have a time certain for regular meetings. It's just something to reasonably apprise the public of the meeting. So the meeting has to take place, because this is a City of Ashland Commission, within the geographic, or I'd say the corporate limits of the City of Ashland, as we're doing today, in a sense. And it's got to be accessible to all of the public. So there was a link on the agenda today where any member of the public could actually click on it and view this meeting. And when we go back to in-person meetings, obviously it has to be in an accessible space. And there's also, obviously every public notice has a note about accommodations, because certain people do need accommodations. And when they notify the city, then the city will make accommodations for those people. Obviously, we've done a little voting already. So there's voting in the meeting. So all decisions must be voted upon and recorded. The votes recorded. And the records are kept of public meetings. This meeting's being digitally recorded, and there will also be minutes comprised and put on the city's website. And those are usually, they don't verbatim state everything that was done, but they talk about, the important points of the meeting, who was in attendance, what was voted upon, what was the outcome, etc. And so I believe, Emily, do you have a question? No, okay. Your hand is still up. Okay. So here are just some practical tips, and these were actually compiled by our previous city attorney, Mr. Lohman. He used to give this presentation, to every incoming council and commission while he was here with the city. So again, to avoid the serial kind of communications, avoid replying to emails when city business information is shared, especially, a reply all. You never really want to hit reply all to an email when you're discussing city business. And here's the tip is, if you want more information on any item, send the request to the appropriate city staff person who will prepare the response, and then send it to all of the committee or commission members. Avoid conversations, both in person or via email, between members where the views of other members are shared. I mean, that's just respect for those fellow members who aren't present. Avoid sharing opinions on items that the commission would need to vote on at a meeting. Okay, and I'm going to let Melissa discuss public records.
So what is a public record? It's really important to realize anything written, email, text regarding city business is a public record. One thing that we do recommend is creating your own business city email address. That way you're not using your personal email, but regardless if you're talking on your personal email, it's still a public record. So we recommend doing that. Anything to add to that, Katrina? I think that's, or any questions on that of what's a public record? Yes.
So I understand what's a public record, but when you say creating an email, is that something that the commission or the city council will do for us, given that everybody has our information?
I think
rather
IT will be doing that to make a
Okay.
new commission email
Okay.
for all of you, for the commission, which is good for us and you, just to be safe.
Great. And then the other question that I have is, and you may address this, so if you're going to address it, you can skip it until you get there. But the question about clarifying public comments. So what happens when we're in live meetings or when we have visitors in the space and we're having discussion? Is there a section time for public comment for people? And how are we to address or not address those public comments?
So
And
going
if you don't know
forward,
the answer now, that's fine.
I'm thinking going forward in your meetings, you can have a public forum. Is that what you're saying? So public comment, it'll
Right.
be 15 minutes and that will be in the record. And it's
15
something
minutes total or
total,
for?
total.
Okay.
So if there's 15 people, 1 minute per,
person.
yes, and that will all be recorded.
And do we have like a public, like a ticker that, is there somebody keeping that time?
Yes, so whoever your chair or minute taker is going to be, will be doing that, I believe.
I think there was a second part to the question for Karina, and that was the ability to respond to things that are raised in the public forum. I think that was part of the question. And then also, as a point of clarification, one of the things that this commission is charged with is having people come to us regarding racial incidents that they have been subjected to so that we can address them. And I think that what you're raising, Anna, is a separate thing from regular commission business, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
I think it's a both and. I'm sorry, Melissa and Katrina. So just to clarify this question, it's kind of a three-part question. First is public comment, which you've said is 15 minutes, right?
Mhm.
And that's total for the meeting, 1 minute per person. The second is when people bring grievances or issues around race or racial equity to this commission, there should be a public email, right, that people can leave that information for the commission or some form of place for grievance complaint. The third is us actually having an email as commission members individually or collectively. I don't know how you're doing that. I don't know if it's one email and we all have the ability to check it, or if it's everybody getting an email.
Good question on the last one. I think we'll have to get together with IT because for me personally with council, we have a separate one and we also have public testimony that's separate and everybody gets it.
Yeah.
As far as responding to public forum, we typically don't at all. That's something that goes on the record, but you can email, a citizen can email any of you and state their situation or any kind of comment that, or you can direct staff to move forward with this, add it to an agenda, make a motion to add it to the agenda and move forward from there. But as far as that meeting, that comment, it stays just public forum to hear and listen to the citizen. So
yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for folks so everybody understands that that means if we make a motion publicly and somebody disagrees or rails against it or wants to say more about it, all that we can do as commission members is listen. We're not to respond and to get into debate around those issues. So I just wanted to make sure that that was really clear for everybody.
Thank you. Yes, great question.
I don't know though, if that is respectfully, I understand that that's what we're being told, that that's the rule. I think that's the practice so that things move forward, but I don't know that that's a requirement of law. Katrina, is that a requirement of law? If we wanted to do it differently, could we?
I know that commissions can be less formal than council meetings. And so you don't need to strictly follow the council rules in chapter 2.04 of the AMC. I don't think the policies for the advisory commission speak to that. And so this body can sort of create its own procedural rules. Yes, that it would like to operate by.
That's my
That would be another meeting, right, Emily?
Say that again?
That would be a decision that we would need to come together on in a separate meeting to decide how we would address those things and who feels comfortable doing so and who doesn't.
That's correct, actually, Gina, and that's why I broke in so that it could get clarified what's a requirement of law and what's a requirement of process, because I do think that from having read the city code and having read the commission handbook, that we do have the ability to set it up how we want it, and particularly because one of our charges is to investigate racial incidents and to respond to them or to make suggestions for how to respond to them. I think that we may be very different from the city council in terms of requesting input and in terms of requesting, giving people the ability to tell their full story, as opposed to being limited to a minute if they, I don't want to further victimize somebody else. Just let me put it that way.
I'm in agreement with that.
Can I say something really quick, Katrina? Is that
Sure.
being the liaison for other commissions and have been on commissions myself, when it's public forum, we have spoken to the individual and actually had a conversation with an individual. Many times, unfortunately, we never had 15 people show up, so people were able to speak longer than a minute. However, I don't know what'll happen, especially at the beginning of this commission having public forum. But I know that we could discuss the situation that was brought in front of us, and we could add it to an agenda to continue the conversation or look deeper into whatever the situation is or was.
Yeah, and certainly you can add anything relevant to the agenda. Sometimes, at that meeting, if it passes by motion or to a future meeting.
And I didn't mean 1 minute, I meant if there's 15 people, it's, but of course people would want more than 1 minute to speak. So you can always extend the public forum. Whoever the chair is, right, Katrina, can say, I'm gonna give each person 2.5.
Again, this sort of forum for commission is not bound by some of the parameters that council is bound by. And so in creating, your own bylaws or your own rules, as long as they don't violate, other parts of either the ORS or the AMC, this commission is free to, dictate how it wants to operate.
Yeah. And we do that in council all the time as well, where we suspend the rules. And if it's a motion that they want to talk to an individual, So it just varies. Which brings me to the next slide. Unless there's any other questions on public records. No?
And I would like to add something about public records, just so that, the commission is aware that everything that's placed into the chat during a Zoom meeting is a public record. And so I just want to make everyone aware of that. So
I just wrote that.
So preparing for meetings, it's a good rule of thumb to have anything you want to get to staff a week ahead of time. That way we get everything to the public. Be very transparent. If you have to direct staff to do anything, we get our work done as well. So like tonight, if there's, like you've already requested a few things, good to know for processing our next agenda. The sooner the better usually. Just any questions, you can always contact one of us and we're happy to help.
And Melissa, wouldn't that be the chairperson that would contact staff once this commission has a chairperson?
That would be a good rule of thumb, yes.
Thank you.
Or even council liaison as well. So.
Absolutely.
And now on to ethics law, Katrina.
So just a real brief overview of Oregon ethics. The commission is bound by the Oregon ethics law, and you can find that in the Oregon Revised Statutes in Chapter 244. The Oregon Government Ethics Commission is the body responsible for enforcing the ethics laws. And you'll see that's important because there are actually civil penalties if someone is found in violation of the ethics law. So that's the telephone number for the Ethics Commission and their website for your information. And there is a really great, I think Gina was talking about handbook. I mean, there's a lot of good information on the links that were provided for this agenda. And I'm not quite sure if the Oregon Government Ethics Handbook was, but you can find it on the website. And it's a very good resource if you have additional questions. So it's very good to know the rules. Again, there are penalties for violating ethics laws. We'll talk about who is a public official. So everyone on this commission is. The prohibited use, of office, whether you can accept gifts or not, conflicts of interest, and then again, the violations and the sanctions for violating an ethics law. So who is considered a public official? There is obviously a definition there in ORS Chapter 244 that states any person when an alleged violation of this chapter occurs is serving the state of Oregon or any of its political subdivisions or any other public body as defined in another section of the ORS as an elected official, appointed official, employee, or agent, irrespective of whether the person is compensated for their services. So everyone here on the commission is considered a public official. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, it includes elected and appointed officials, members of boards, committees, and volunteers. Next slide, Melissa. So prohibited uses of the office, those are also set forth in detail in the ORS. But basically it says that a public official may not use or attempt to use one's official position or office for personal gain, financial gain, or avoidance of financial detriment. So let's say a parking ticket you don't want to pay. You can't use your position to try and get out of a parking ticket. To whom it applies, the public official, and then this is of note, a relative or a member of your household or any business with which the public official or a relative or member of the household is associated. Now, relative is a defined term also under Oregon law, and it's pretty narrowly defined as, like your spouse, your children, and then again, a member of your immediate household. And then there's the disclaimer: if the financial gain or avoidance of financial detriment would not otherwise be available, but for the public official's holding of the official position or office. Someone is knocking on my office window. It's very odd. So the question to ask oneself is, would I have this opportunity if I were not a public official? And if you wouldn't, then don't do it. Don't take advantage of your position on the commission. So these rules don't apply to compensation or like travel reimbursement, unsolicited awards, or gifts or honoraria, and that's within limits, as the next slide will show. So gifts are also a defined term, something of economic value given to the public official or a candidate, relative, or member of the household of the public official or candidate, without valuable consideration of equivalent value, which is not extended to others on the same terms and conditions. So it has to be available to the general public. Again, if it's available to you just because you're on a commission or on a city council or you're a candidate, then you can't take advantage of it without violating the ethics laws. And gifts are limited to $50 per year per giver. So you can't accept any gifts with a value of over $50. And this talks again about the gift rule. It applies to you as the public official. It applies to your relatives or members of your immediate household. You cannot ask for, receive, or give, or even hint at getting or giving a gift over $50 from any single source in a year. Okay. And that's if your source has an interest in your official actions in any way whatsoever. I mean, if in doubt, don't do it. Just don't take the gift. This talks about when it's not limited. Obviously, you can take presents from your relatives or members of your household. You can accept unsolicited awards or tokens with a value of less than $25. You can take advantage of discounted registrations at professional education events. You can get informational material for your official duties. If it's part of your private business and not related in any way to your public office or your duties. You can also accept food, beverage, and entertainment when acting in an official capacity representing the city. So this section is about conflicts of interest. And these are situations where your ability to make a decision in an ethical and unbiased manner might be affected in any way. There's obviously a definition of a conflict of interest, and you see the site for it. It's any action or any decision or recommendation by a person acting in a capacity as a public official, the effect of which would be to the financial benefit or detriment of the person or the person's relative or any business with which the person or relative is associated. And there are two types of conflicts. There are actual conflicts, which would result in financial benefit or detriment to you or a relative. Or there are potential conflicts, which may, and you're not really sure, but it may result in a financial benefit or detriment. In both those instances, I think as the next slide will show, you don't want to do it, and then you want to let your body know, the commission know, that you might have a conflict of interest, whether it's actual or potential. So That's what, if you're in doubt, you still need to disclose it, okay? You need to state the nature of the conflict that you have. You need to do it before voting or discussing a matter before the commission. You need to do it on the record, so it's part of the public record. And you need to do it at each meeting the issue is discussed. So it's not good enough just to do it at the first meeting. You need to do it every subsequent meeting where you're discussing that particular issue on which you might have a conflict. So if an actual conflict exists, in addition to declaring it, you need to not talk about the issue at all. And you definitely cannot vote on anything regarding that issue. And it's also recommended that you leave the room during that discussion so that there's no appearance of any impropriety on your part. And these are the sanctions if you were to violate one of the ethical laws. There's a civil penalty for an individual of up to $5,000 per violation. There are forfeitures, twice the amount of financial benefit realized if you accepted an expensive gift. There are also letters of reprimand, explanation, or education. And those are all, again, from the Government Ethics Commission. And I believe that it wraps it up. So I know that's a very general overview of everything. And if you have any specific situations, you're always welcome to contact me to discuss those. A lot of times counselors have questions about potential conflicts of interest and get an opinion on that.
So something that thank you, Katrina, for that, but something that I heard mentioned before is that the commissioners were going to have their own email.
Okay.
To my knowledge, that hasn't happened before. Melissa, I heard you say you talked to IT. So I just wanted to be very clear on that. Are the commissioners going to have their own email address, or will the city staff liaison person just have a group the group email that goes out to the group? I just want to be very clear on what that's going to look like.
I don't know. Well, I'm sorry, Melissa might know the answer, because I don't know the exact answer to that question myself, and I'd have to check with IT. I would guess that everyone would get an individual email.
That's what we're going for. That's what we've been trying to do for every commission. So it helps everybody, the city and the commissioners. So I'll talk to IT first thing tomorrow and get it.
All right.
So
and
I have a question.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Julie.
No. I think someone was speaking. I apologize.
I was just going to say, I think, Gina, in the past, I think you're right that municipalities did not tend to do that because it's a lot to have oversight on. But I know prior to leaving Marin, the last commission that I formed, which is a community commission, we have 30 members and everybody got their own email specifically because it was hard for people to respond or to check. What they did was individual emails that were like at marincounty.org, and then also one central email for grievances, complaints that everybody on the commission had access to. And then the board and the liaison could also check those emails as well. But what happened was the first and the second chair really managed the overall email.
Thank you. I think that that's a very clean way to do that. So Melissa, you looking into that, I really, really appreciate that. Thank you both.
So thank you, Anya and I actually like that a lot. And I was going to ask if, so if I received an email to my Julie at City of Ashland, which was a grievance,
Mhm.
I just want to make sure I really understand the steps. What would the messaging be to the person? How does it go into discussion? How does it get handled? Because I think that may be something that would occur, correct? And how does that person's anonymity be protected? Especially if it was someone who actually knew who I was, but maybe didn't know anybody else. And that there needs to at least be some sort of pathway that's formalized so that I don't send it to the wrong group list, or I don't want to embarrass anybody or put anybody in danger or have it get lost.
I think we decide that in our meetings, right? Like that we all agree on that process, and then I think we make it public.
You know, something that I can share is what we do on council is we get grievances. We'll get emails and it'll come to council. And rather than to reply all, but I want to reply to that individual, I will email that individual. I don't reply all. And so say we're on the commission together, we all get an email. I can reply to that individual. Julie, you can reply to that individual. Anya can reply to that individual. We don't reply all.
But it's still public record, so just.
Correct. Harry, if you're
muted.
I don't do that very often. Sorry about that. Thank you for reminding me. So 2 questions. One is if we can find out quickly if we're going to get an Ashland email or not, because if our emails are public record and we're not getting an Ashland one, there may be people on the commission who may want to set up a Gmail account that is specifically themselves just for this, right? So that our personal email is not going out to everybody. And the sooner we know that, the faster we can make those accommodations for ourselves if needed. And the second question had to do with what Julie was asking. So if I understood Julie's question, George emails me through the commission email about a grievance he has. So it's just come to me. It hasn't, because George knows me, it has not come to the commission's email. Do I then forward it to the commission's email, the one that everyone sees? I think that's a clarification I did understand what we were saying before. I understand that if someone emails a bunch of us, we can each reply to that person. But if George just emails me, what are my abilities, obligations, duties to make the rest of my commission aware of this grievance or question or communication?
Well, from a public records standpoint, I think the first thing I would want to know, since George only emailed you, does he want to keep it private? Is he sending you this in confidence? Because if someone sends you something in confidence and you agree to keep it confidential, then it's, arguably not subject to disclosure under public records. I think it gets complicated when then you forward it to the entire group. And
so I guess the question is, George has a grievance that he's sending to my commission email, either because he knows me and he doesn't know the group commission email for whatever reason. I mean, if George is my friend and he just wants to talk to me, he's going to just talk to me, right? So this is a commission matter, but for whatever reason, it just went to my email.
That would be a decision for the group, but I believe, he's wanting the group to discuss his grievance, right? And do something about it. So therefore you would need to forward it to the group or put it on the agenda for discussion at the next meeting.
Okay, it's a procedural question. So
or
sorry,
respond
Anya.
to George and say, I've received your email, your grievance, and before I move forward, I wanted to make sure you're okay with me either anonymously or publicly having this discussion with the commission. This is our procedure. Anytime a grievance is filed, we come together, we discuss the grievance, add it to our agenda, discuss it, and then ameliorate the issue. So it's you responding to him directly and then forwarding it to the entire group for discussion. After he may say, no, I don't want you to, or yes, I want to be anonymous. And then you bring to us citizen A had an issue in a grocery store, and we still discuss it without releasing the person's name. At least that's my understanding.
Thank you. And I could even say if he doesn't care about not being anonymous, that he could repose his question to that commission email that everyone sees.
Or you just share it.
Or I just share it. Okay, thank you. It's just procedure. I want to make sure I'm clear so I don't do something wrong.
All right, Gina, I overspoke.
No, I was just going to say, in my experience, George reaches out to you, George is okay with it, it's a grievance, you take it to the commission. In my experience, it goes to the commission at your next meeting. And you put it on the agenda or you discuss it then. Maybe George shows up for public hearing. It's out there.
And this could all be added to your bylaws if you want to have a procedure.
Speaking of which, do you have a copy of bylaws that you could share with us? So the slides that you just went over, will you email those to us, a copy of like bylaws that exist that you have for any of the commissions, and then we can tweak them so we're not starting from scratch? Something that's editable if possible.
No problem.
Thank you.
But I think that's a great suggestion. I think the slide is a great suggestion. Also, if you go to the City of Ashland website under social equity and racial justice, which was noted today on the website, and your agenda is there, the handbook is there, information is on there, that I think just hitting those links and checking it out just so you have as much information as you need.
The other question I had was about, you had mentioned, Katrina, earlier in your presentation, this piece around getting information to the proper city council members or knowing who to go to. That's a process, because I'm new to the space, that I really don't know. And I know that there's been a lot of change. So I don't know that the website accurately depicts like an org chart of in the city council. Could you share that with us so that we have updated information? And I know that we're not necessarily engaging people as a commission, because that's out of the order, but just so that we know for process sake, like who are the people?
So you should really be discussing everything with Gina, because she is your council liaison. And so she's the one that's been appointed, to take all of your issues to council for you.
Thank you.
And I think all the council, there were some, because we just had the election not so very long ago, there were some missing elements, but I think everyone's photo and email and all the council is on the website now.
Okay.
I know our names are on the website for sure. And I did email a while back. Amit's name is incorrect. My last name is spelled incorrectly. So I just emailed.
On the website?
Yeah.
No, the correction she's talking.
Oh, I see. Yes, I printed it out today. And I see it's missing an I, isn't it?
Yes. And then Amit's is, it's right there on the screen. It's an O, not an A.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an O, yeah.
It's CHOUD, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure who posted that.
I could fix that. No problem.
Okay. Yeah, Melissa has more access to the website than I have none.
Anya, I want to just for the sake of completion here, jump in on one thing that I think may be helpful to people in case not everybody got all of the emails that were sent, because I know that you would come from Marin, and I don't know the extent to which people check their emails, because, you know, we all get just so many emails that figuring out, I think, what's important sometimes to really look at and what isn't as important can be hard. So having helped work to create this ordinance and to create this commission with Gina, I do want to say that the Social and Equity Justice Commission small item that was attached to the agenda today is a really helpful document to look at, because it breaks down what we're actually supposed to be doing. And then the other two things that I think are very helpful for people to look at is the actual ordinance that was sent, which Ty O'Mara sent earlier on at the very beginning, which was just a ministerial functional thing. And then the other thing is there is also a social equity and racial justice resolution that is separate from the commission that was created prior to George Floyd's murder, that was created right after George Floyd's murder, but prior to Aiden Ellison's. And I think that it will give people a good sense, if they want to sort of look at what happened to get us to where we are now all in the room, sharing the space in terms of what we want to do going forward.
Yeah, I did not get, because you all had the wrong email for me. I did not get any of those emails. By the time I started getting emails, I was getting the thread about the letter. So that's where I kind of came on. I have in fact read the resolution and the other information, which I actually read even prior to coming, moving back to Ashland. But I also think it would be helpful, I don't know how we do this, if there is a space that we could all access, like a box, or knowing that it would be public record. But I'm in a new position, and just like everyone else on this call, work. And so I'm managing, equity work for a new department in this organization. And I need to, as much as I possibly can, have stuff in, like, if we could have one folder regarding the commission where everybody could drop resources and updates and that kind of stuff. I get it that it's on the website, but it would just be great to have one central place. And especially as we develop process for ourselves and rules and regulations for ourselves, because looking back through that email thread, we said a lot and trying to find that and pick it out is pretty tough. So that's a request that I have.
I think Amit's, your email was incorrect in that original welcome thread too. But I finally found yours. So you may have missed some stuff at the beginning.
Right. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I had, I think, sent you the right one, and I also updated it to those guys, but I missed a couple of starting emails here.
So I therefore have the following suggestion, and perhaps Melissa or Katrina, somebody would be willing to do it, which would be to create a Dropbox, perhaps, where this is following up on Anya's suggestion, and starting to populate the Dropbox by the city of Ashland with the documents that I just referenced, and also with the manuals and the other items that you have referenced throughout this meeting, so that people don't have to be going through email threads to find them, which can be so hard. And also so that people don't have to be doing their own independent web searches, which sometimes there's an issue as to if that creates a public record, the email thread chain, where they start, what's in their internet browser trying to find stuff. So if the city of Ashland could start a a Dropbox and populate it with stuff we might need, I think that would be very helpful for people, especially for me.
Me too.
So I have a question, Emily. Other commissions I've seen, they will have like some type of binder. And I don't know if this is what you were talking about either, Anya, but to have some type of binder. So when you create your bylaws go in there. The resolution goes in there. Your rules and regulations go in there. And then when we start to meet in person, you always have your binder with you, and you will have your minutes in there and things like that. That some people want to have it on their laptop. Some people want to have paper so that if you have, I know other commissions, they have binders and they add to it, or however, whatever's best convenient, but it's all in one place.
Yeah, and I think that's why the electronic version is probably the best version to start. And then if people want to print out their actual and create an actual binder, then yes, I think the issues we're going to get into and the knowledge sharing that we're going to get into in this commission, a binder won't be probably as great a way, at least for me, because we're going to end up sharing a lot of like social justice and equity terms, and we may need to formulate a glossary, and that may be information that should go to the council. And so having all of that in an electronic space would be best. That's very clearly labeled. So it's easy for people to find and access, that everybody has also access to. The other thing is we're clearly going to have to come to a space of editing bylaws. And so it should be a space where people have a track changes ability, and we're not sending a document back and forth for folks to edit, and we're losing the edits in translation. So, and then for those of us who have learning differences or are a little slower at this, I think, you know, or if those of us who speed ahead of everybody, I think there's a way that electronic space can aggregate all of us in a position of supporting each other, so that if somebody does not see something, we can say, oh, here's how you use this, or this is where it is. I'm an educator at heart, so I'm always happy to support people in figuring it out. But I just think having an actual binder, at least for me, I can't remember the last time I hit print on anything. I just, the IT at OSF asked me the other day if I wanted a printer, and I was like, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be wasting trees and your money.
I always said as an estate planner, I loved paperwork, but I hated paper.
Right.
I did everything was paperless.
So yeah,
Except,
I think if we can do that, Katrina and Melissa, like if you all can in the next meeting, let us know like what the procedures about the emails, about the Dropbox, whether that's something that we can do. And if we're setting a precedent, by all means, let's set the precedents. If you all have never done that for a commission before, let's do it so that it makes it easier. And if it's public record, it also gives everybody an opportunity to see the work that's being done in a very transparent way.
Electronic.
Does that need a motion?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I could definitely update documents to your current webpage, just so that if you think of anything, send me an email that's not already there, maybe. And then I'm thinking the main thing for a Dropbox, and if you're doing bylaws and stuff like that, that will be up to your chair to keep that posted once you figure out who your staff liaison is to do the Dropbox. I'm thinking that. Katrina, what do you think?
Well, I'm thinking, do you want more like what we have here among some people, like a Teams kind of platform where all the members of your team or the commission can access those documents in that Dropbox. And I believe IT would be able to do that as long as everyone has access to that same software, like a Microsoft Teams or something.
It could be in the cloud. It's a cloud-based.
And
so-
I am not the most technologically advanced when it comes to those kinds of things. So I have to talk with IT about the best way to do that. I'm sure it is definitely possible to do
Yeah,
it for this commission.
I would just ask them for a cloud, if we can do a cloud-based,
Okay.
and that way all people need is a email and a login,
Okay.
and everybody can access it. And then when we share documents, it will update everybody that a document has been shared and updated. So it won't be like, I missed it because, you know, you didn't get it. You'll get a notification.
I like it. Setting the new precedent.
Maybe
That's what we're
everyone will
all
stop
about here, breaking precedents.
taking precedent.
We only have about 11 minutes left, but I wanted to know, because we want to talk, you wanted me to send out a doodle poll for next meeting. And when you all think you'd like to do that, like how soon? Are we talking 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks? What are you, and it's kind of up to the commission too, how often you'd like to meet. And that's something also to discuss as part of your bylaws, that we're going to meet, once a month or twice a month or once every, just whatever period of time works for everyone. Yes.
Question, are we, are people comfortable meeting in person? Do people want to continue to do it through Zoom? Because I know personally that affects my availability in terms of if I'm in town or out of town. And so that would be an interesting question to know before I said when I could be available.
For me, I need to continue to meet via Zoom for a while, because I'm not even in my actual office at OSF yet. That's just I'm just speaking for myself. Also,
Okay.
with the number of meetings, like I literally slid into this meeting.
So
Meetings all day.
let's do Zoom then. Let's at least for the time being, for the next meeting or two, do Zoom. It certainly is nice. I love seeing everybody in real life, and it's really lovely to be like, oh, it's 5 minutes too. I have a Zoom meeting and I have a meeting in 5 minutes. Here I am.
We could also get to a point where we do like a every other or something, where like one meeting a month is in person or whatever. We can.
There's one little glitch about meeting via Zoom going forward. It's not a problem because we're still in our state of emergency until August 17 to meet the next one via Zoom. But then you're going to need to adopt some bylaws that allow for that. And you're going to need to, determine what meetings will be Zoom, will they all be Zoom, or what meetings will be in person. So those are things that need to be on the next agenda to discuss how you want to meet going forward after that.
I'm going to answer your first question, if I might.
Okay.
Katrina, I think that we should plan on, oh, Nataka, you have the baby. That stops all meetings. It's the baby rule.
Sorry, folks. My husband had a meeting at the same time, so sorry.
It's wonderful. It reminds us
No,
why
it's
we're
great.
doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you. It reminds us why we're doing it. Thanks. That's the baby rule. So I think that if we can, we should plan on meeting every 2 weeks, because this issue is important to all of us. And certainly if Martin Luther King couldn't wait, I don't think we should be either. So that's what I think.
I am comfortable with every 2 weeks. I am comfortable with Zoom, especially if we are allowed to create bylaws to have that as an option, especially given that our case count in Jackson is higher than it, about as high as it was during the fall surge. So we're, I think we should keep public health in mind still during this time.
Agreed.
Yes.
And so this meeting was kind of during office hour, business hours. You know, other commissions meet in the evening. I don't know what works better for the group. Since it's Zoom, maybe there's more flexibility.
What's
But
the normal time of your other commission meetings?
Yeah, some of us.
well, you know, council meets in the evening at 6 p.m. I think planning commission meets at 6 p.m. Because a lot of people obviously are working and it's harder for them to meet before 5. So it's just whatever works for the group.
I'm comfortable usually after 4 o'clock on work days. I can certainly make another meeting work, but I do work full time too. I'm sure many people here do.
In the doodle poll, could you give us some
Sure.
ranges so that we can sort of figure that out? You know,
Sure, and it's a little more wide open since it's Zoom because we don't have to
Yeah.
reserve the space, a physical space.
Yeah, so I think both in
give
the
a bunch
day
of
and also
different
if I know
times.
that it's coming, if I know that I'm scheduling it out 2 months, then you know, then I can probably schedule it unless I'm on the road. Okay.
And will we also be at a point soon where we know that it's the first and second Wednesday of the month or every 2 weeks or something like that, so it's set also, so it's something that we can hard code in our calendar, and not constantly be like, well, I don't know where I am in 2 weeks, I don't know where
Yeah, that's what all of the other commissions do. How many times a month do you want to meet, and what days, kind of like you say, every first and third Wednesday or Thursday. Tuesdays are a challenge for staff just because we have council 1 week and then we have planning commission the next week. So
I suggest that I think the sense of the body is that we should meet every 2 weeks. I think it's much easier for planning if you could send us a doodle poll, Katrina, that gives us dates, a range of dates and a range of times, because I can't answer you right now what day or time within that is best for me without really giving it some thought.
Sorry, Emily, I didn't mean to step on you.
Okay.
The only thing I know is that Mondays are not good for me.
Okay.
Something that I was looking at is today is the 3rd Thursday. And I know Emily said every 2 weeks. Does everyone feel every 2 weeks?
Well, I'm thinking, maybe twice a month. So it's almost every 2 weeks. Sometimes there was a few days extra, kind of like most of the other commissions do, because that's easier to keep track of, like you say, like the first and third Thursday or the first and fourth Thursday or something of a month.
That's fine.
That's fine. And I know for me, like this time worked fine. I could certainly have this time the first and third Thursdays of the month, but we'll see what everybody else says.
Okay, well, I'll work on that. So Amit, did you have a question?
No, I was kind of going to talk on the same thing. I think maybe we can do it this way, or maybe every like we did it this time, like on the 15th of every month, and then on the 30th. So that's like somewhere in the middle and somewhere in the end. So, but anyways, like anything works for me. It was just a suggestion, so all is good. That's all.
Okay.
I suppose the only issue you come up when you have it by date is if the 30th is on the weekend.
Right.
Whereas if you're saying the first and third or the second and fourth, you may have some months where there's an extra week between meetings, but most of the time it's going to be every other.
Yeah.
And then we know we're always on a weekday and we don't have the, what do we do now?
I think because it's their view, Julie, right? Is that what you're, like, how we know how many people
Yes,
are watching?
I
the
just
commission
wondered.
meeting?
I wondered. That's all. I think we also got an email popped in too from someone who may have been watching the meeting. I'm not sure. It's in our email, which is something we can't email each other about, but
Okay. All right.
Bye.
If no
Bye-bye.
one has anything else, the meeting can be adjourned by consensus a couple minutes early or,
Yeah, I have to go and it's 4:59, so 1 minute early, I get a minute to get some tea. See you later. Oh, wait, Gina.
So something I wanted to say really quickly, everyone, is that I did receive a text from the mayor, and she couldn't get into this meeting, but she was watching and she just wanted to say thank you. So go get your tea, Emily. I'm grateful we're all here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Nice to see everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Sounds like there's, yeah, consensus to end. Bye-bye.